This morning, we have with us in our studios, Majid Dahiru joins us now. He is a technical member of the Lookstara team and also a newspaper columnist and analyst. And Mr. Zubike Agboifo joins us. He's a man of many parts, but for this conversation, we're going to be having him as our security analyst. Thank you so much, Mr. Agboifo, for joining us this morning. And also to you, Majid, thank you so much for coming in on this conversation. It is taking so long for us to get here. And one of the things that came out in the conversation that monitoring what we heard yesterday, is a lot of people say, that's according to the governor of Kaduna State, he said a lot of people think that the governors of the North have been complacent. And in recent times, some of the conversations, some of the happenings have been painting them as people who do not know what it is that they're doing, but nothing could be farther from the truth. Do you think that this decision that they have now finally reached, agreeing to suspend illegal mining, which seems to be at the heart of the problem, agreeing to state policing, is also another decision that they have also reached, and this the new regional security funding. How far do you think these steps will go?
This is not the first time that northern governors are meeting and coming up with recommendations like this. Some of the recommendations, yes, state police, okay, maybe something to look at. But to say you're suspending illegal mining, did you approve illegal mining in the first place? So what powers do you have to suspend something that is an illegality? It is illegal. It shouldn't happen in the first place.
Okay, so maybe it was my fault. Suspend mining in general.
Again, the question is, what kind of mining? Are you going to suspend people's legitimate businesses or the illegal ones? Anyway, the truth of the matter is that the governors have not just been complacent. They really have shown that they didn't really know what they were doing. Because Governor Obasani, for instance, who hosted the meeting, despite Wales Council, despite repeated drawing of his attention to the fact that negotiations do not work with bandits, embarked on the negotiation with bandits, and that has been the norm across the region. And when you ask them, from where do you derive the power, even as a governor, to negotiate with somebody who has picked up arms against citizens and the state? I can't see it in the Constitution. So, the very act of attempting to pacify bandits, to pacify terrorists with all means of what you call the so-called, I don't know, I disdain that term, non-kinetic. When I hear it, it riles me up. Each time they deploy this so-called non-kinetic fallacy as an approach for securing both the region and the country in total, we tell them it does not work. It cannot work. It has not worked before. Your predecessor tried it and has told the whole world that the only repentant bandit is a dead one. Why has it become difficult for them to develop the political will and to encourage the commander-in-chief who sits in Abuja to say, go all out and deal decisively with these people? And there are suggested methodology that can be adopted in the short term and in the long term to defeat insecurity across the region. The region has a lot to be concerned about, and I'm happy that for once I've admitted that the region is experiencing an existential threat. That is for me the most important takeaway from the meeting. Existential threat. Now, since they know that the North is expressing an existential threat, being the epicenter of Nigeria's twin insecurity challenges, the most devastating of our security challenges, two of them emanate from this region. And I'm talking about Boko Haram Bishop and other jihadi groups on one hand, and the problem of killer herdsmen, either as bandits or ethnic militia operating in central Nigeria, from the same region. So the question that must be posed to the leaders of the region, traditional rulers and governors, is how did they not get here? And in the process is now drawing Nigeria down the road to state failure. Because when the governor of Gombe said Nigerians from all walks of life across religious divides are dying in the battlefield to defend the Nigerian state, it is true. But the question is, why are they mostly dying in the theater of war, either in the northeast or northwest or parts of north central? Why are they not dying in the southern part of the country as much as they're dying in the north? Meaning, the rest of Nigeria is bearing the brunt of what has gone wrong socially, religiously, economically with Nigeria. So the question is, now that they've gathered in a room, what have they come up with as decisions that are decisive enough to turn the tide around and saved enough from itself and Nigeria along with it.
So you are not satisfied with these decisions that they have reached?
No, they have not addressed the real issues. For instance, why do we have jihadi terror groups operating out of northern Nigeria? It is Boko Haram, Nita Iswap, Lakurawa, Mahmuda, name them. Why is northern Nigeria so fertile a ground for the planting of the seeds of violent extremism and its germination into monstrous dimensions? What is responsible for that?
We'll come to that shortly. Let me bring in Mr. Boyfo into this conversation. Azubike, I'm sure that you have been monitoring events, especially from the threat of the United States president. Well, some people will say maybe it's maybe not. We shouldn't call it a threat. We're now beginning to see even more movement, or even more. Yeah, I'll use the word movement because we're yet to see definitive results. As a result of that, we're still seeing, will I say, kidnappings. We're still seeing. Yeah, because children are still in captivity as we speak. The NSA is reassuring Nigerians that the over 200 children who were taken in a school in Niger State are going to be returned. But we saw that after this, this threat came up. So, for you, looking at what has now happened, looking at the meeting that the governors held yesterday, especially the governors of northern extraction, are you satisfied that this push, because it would seem that before now there had been reluctance on the part of some governors to support this push for state policing, but with this final confirmation that they are for it, do you think that we could be making progress on the kinetic front?
Well, thank you very much, Malpe, for having me. I most definitely agree that this is a welcome development. I also agree with Majid on the pertinent questions that he has asked. But first and foremost, I'd like us to look at this from a historical perspective. We know that violent extremism in the North is not a today's thing. It's something that, as far as I can remember, I mean, like if we go back to the early 80s, we're talking about Zango Kataf, we're talking about Maitesina riots and all kinds of pockets of, extreme religious attacks, in different parts of the North. So this is not a new issue. And so I do agree that the governors of the northern extraction have particularly not paid attention to the security implications of all these things over time. Even when we had military governors and military administrators ruling the North. So this is not a new thing. However, that being said, I think that this is a strategically and tactically welcome development that they are at least talking about it, because it's from talking about it that we can now begin to develop the strategies and the tactics to deal with these things, not purely from a kinetic point of view, but generally also from a discussing point of view, or a discussion point of view, in the sense that you cannot basically have a successful kinetic operation without the other soft human elements of approach. So I think it's not as binary as we want to make it look. Like we think once we go kinetic, then we'll solve the problems. No, we have to definitely have more like complex discussions of this complex issue, because it's not just as simple as going kinetic and hitting the grounds, putting men or boots on grounds to go after these guys, because you're going to have the intelligence. I definitely respect the Nigerian intelligence community, but I think that there's more that needs to be done before we actually start talking about the kinetic portion of this mission or this operation.
Let me interrupt your thoughts and ask you this, because some people will say that, look, as it currently stands right now, we are in a fragile state. A lot of people, I mean, we've seen governors last week, as a matter of fact, I also have brought this into context. Last week, southern governors met in Ogun State. I think the governor of Ogun State held that meeting with governors of the South, and they had quite a number of resolutions that they came up with. And this week, we're seeing governors of the North having their own meeting as well and coming up with their own resolutions. It would seem that we're in a state where we're now somewhat fragmented. People are looking towards protecting their states or their regions, as it would seem. And if that is the situation and state police is the way people are looking to go, there'll be questions as to whether this is an appropriate time to introduce it, given how oftentimes policing operates from the area of profiling. So do you see any dangers here with regards to the resolutions that governors are reaching, and what hiccups do you see ahead of the journey?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, as much as state policing is welcome, or, you know, as you may even have a state militia like you do have in the United States, a lot of people don't really know that when you talk about the National Guard, the historical roots of the National Guard is from state militia, you know, and the National Guard in the United States is under the control of the state governor, and then also a secondary control of the president of the United States. Now, bringing it back to our Nigerian circumstance, state policing, I think, is a welcome idea, but we need to have the effective or the strong constitutional structure to back that. Otherwise, we might find ourselves running into a constitutional crisis from that angle. One of the challenge that I see right now as it is the issue of funding. We have state governors or state governments that can barely pay salaries of civilian workers at this point, and they're thinking about state policing. I mean, how are you going to fund it? How are you going to run it? How are you going to pay their salaries? Understanding that most of the challenges that we have are more economic than even security, because like it's the economic challenges that actually, you know, bring about this security, most of these security challenges that we have. So if you do have a state police and you are not paying them well, then basically you're apparently setting people loose to use their inherent policing powers to, you know, help themselves. So we must be very careful. As much as we say that this is a welcome development, we must be very careful and make sure that we have the appropriate structure, both constitutionally and economically, to back what we're trying to do. The other part of it is also training. I know that this is more like a state of emergency. How soon are you going to be able to put these guys together and give them the necessary training that they require, both in handling, you know, the actual missions of safeguarding and securing people, and then also respecting the people that they're safeguarding and guarding. So those are three main issues that I think that these governments should take a look at. Now, in terms of fragmentation, I believe that if we have a central structure to guide the decentralization, then fragmentation would not be an issue. And all these things would have to come together. We have to run it from the center in terms of setting up the apparatus, setting up the infrastructure that would help with this state policing. But the truth is that, yes, the central policing system is actually currently inadequate to secure 230 million Nigerians. I do agree with that. But we have to make sure that we have all the structures in place, the constitutional backing or the legal or regulatory backings that can help us make sure that, you know, we achieve the objectives, the original intent of putting together the state police.
All right, let me quickly take this to my colleague, Ayo. I'm sure he has questions for Majid.
There's something that Mr. Agbuefo said a little while ago when he was giving us that background, a historical background to the issues. And I'm sure as a research person, you also understand that a good number of those issues were always as a matter of exclusion in the past. The Metatini riot, for instance, came because many of the young people felt jobless, hopeless, frustrated, alienated. They were left out of the lurch, and all of that. That's on the one hand. And a number of other issues over the years have also spoken to similar narratives. Now, when we say we want to take on these issues, do you think we're addressing the deeper roots of these issues, or we're just papering over cracks because we can solve the immediate challenges of insecurity today? But what's to say that if we don't address the issues of poverty, unemployment, and those other things that even the military say are the roots of these issues, what's to say that we're not going to go back to the same thing we always had?
A few seconds ago, I said that the foundational issue is economics, basically. Like, if we do not...
Sorry, Mr. Agwefo. The question is for Mr. Majid.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, economic deprivation, social dislocation, and all forms of underperformance of government in terms of provision of wealth and security can trigger some form of insecurity. But I can assure you that most of this category of insecurity emanating from economic crisis are usually urban criminal activities. When you talk about the kind of challenges we are facing today, I can tell you without fear of contradiction that Islamist insurgency, such as the one that is being waged against the Nigerian state by ISWAP, Boko Haram, Lakuru, and others, has little or nothing to do with economic or social underdevelopment. Because among the rank and file of these terror groups are some of the most educated, most exposed, and well-to-do Nigerians, as well as those that are supporting them from across the world, particularly from the Middle East. It's an ideological problem. And that is why you have this problem even in the West. Some people left their comfort zone from the Western world and willingly subscribe to ISIS in Syria and in Iraq. Willingly. Some people that have been arrested in this country, for example, the Christmas Day bomber that was arrested in the US, is the son of a billionaire, an American educated son of a billionaire. But he wanted to carry out an act of terrorism based on inspiration by an ideological leaning that has radicalized an entire generation of young men and women from northern Nigeria. Well, so I choose to focus on the ideology behind radicalism.
Well, I understand that,
and
Mr.
it's important
Majid.
It is tackled.
I totally understand that, Mr. Majid. Just a second. I understand that
totally. And it is important to address that ideology.
And I'm hoping that the governor, the northern governors... Just one second, if you can hear me.
And
I'm hoping also... Just a second,
not.
Mr. Majid, if you can hear me. That's why I'm also hoping that this information you are giving us now is not lost on the governors. But without a crack in the wall, the lizard cannot get in. So if the people were really, well-to-do, and there was, you would remember that back in time, now, the local government administrations had their own security apparatus. The community leaders will ask you, once you get in, you are a stranger, they are asking you, who are you from? Whose child are you? And all those things. It seems that all those things are lost because that we understand from security analysis that the local government or local communities are the first line of defense. So if they have their values and someone is coming in with values that are ultra-vires, they would normally have taken them up. But I'm wondering if you think that can play. I understand the ideological part, but do you think that can play in the new issues?
I am saying economic deprivation can give rise to urban crime. There's a difference between criminality and terrorism. Terrorism is an ideologically induced insurgency against the state by people who subscribe to a particular kind of thinking. It doesn't matter whether they are poor or rich. This is the point I'm trying to make. So in addition to urban crime and petty criminality, what really confronts the Nigerian state today is jihadi terrorism. And I'm saying we should begin to interrogate the fact that northern Nigeria seems to be a very fertile ground for the breeding of the kind of ideas that are now taking a violent dimension. For instance, I get the argument that Libya collapsed, and so it aggravated the problem of terrorism in Nigeria. But the question we should ask ourselves is this: how come the disintegration of Libya didn't result in jihadism making a landfall in Ghana, in Togo, in Benin, in Cote d'Ivoire, in Senegal or Gambia, or even up north in Nigeria, in Egypt, or in Tunisia? It is because these countries, some of them majority Muslim countries, have been able to roll back the tendencies responsible for this. Let me tell you this: an average jihadi thinks he's doing the right thing as enshrined by his own understanding of his religion. And I've always argued that these ideas sprout from the mainstream. And the political leadership of the North had weaponized Islamism for political Islam to gain power. So what you see happening today by way of jihadi terrorism is a violent manifestation of Islamism that is rife in northern Nigeria. So the effort that the governors and the national leaders are supposed to be doing at this time is to roll back the tendency of Islamism in northern Nigeria. And Islamism is distinct from Islam. Islam is not the same thing as Islamism. In fact, the biggest victim of Islamism is Islam and Muslims. And that is why Boko Haram has indeed killed far more Muslims than non-Muslims in northern Nigeria. So, and I'm saying, since this has become an existential threat, because the region stands the risk of falling under the control of these jihadi groups if nothing drastic is done. But the problem is this: for every one jihadi you've gone down on the battlefield, there are tens, if not hundreds, willing to replace their lives, because the ideas that inspire this movement are all being orchestrated in the mainstream, and the political leaders are tolerating it because it favors them in a sense.
Mr. Majid, just 1 second, if you can hear me. So let's quickly segue into another part of this conversation. The president declared a state of emergency on insecurity, and we have also seen the resignation of the Minister of Defense in that light. What do you, with all these things that you have said, with that state of emergency declared by the president, what do you expect to see? And in the light of the resignation of the Minister of Defense, what are the implications?
It is important to correct the fact that the president did not declare state of emergency over Nigeria. He declared a security emergency. And clearly, between when he made that declaration and today, even though I was a bit excited, at least for the first time, I believed he spoke like a commander-in-chief who was willing to take out the enemies of the state, both domestic and foreign. But between then and today, it's almost a week now, I've not seen a strategy to back up that declaration. Meaning there's a gap in strategic thinking at the highest level of security management in this country. You don't just make such a declaration and nothing changes in the polity. I mean, between then and now, I should have felt a change in strategy and security management right from my doorstep to my workplace. I should have felt something has changed. I should have been issued new security guidelines and protocols. I should have seen something changing. But between then and now, we've seen more abductions, as though the bandits and the terrorists are trying to show us that our government is so ineffectual that they can even declare something that sounds like a security emergency and it has no effect on their operations. So there's a gap there. As for the resignation of the Minister for Defense, ab initio, a Badaru should not have been appointed as Minister of Defense of a country like Nigeria, a war-torn country like Nigeria. What security experiences does he have? He was a good governor, he's a good politician, no doubt, but he should have been given something that was more fit for his purpose than make him the defense minister of a country as troubled as Nigeria. Even when you must appoint security chiefs or retired security chiefs as defense ministers, they must be among the best available. It's not just any retired military officer that can even be a defense chief or defense minister. It must be among the best available, with the right caliber, with the right calibration of the understanding of what's at hand, through their antecedents, through their missions, through their duty, their tour of duty, and probably the kind of ideas they exude as people that are battle tested. We didn't see that at the beginning, and it was a major flaw on the part of the government. Now that the man has resigned, I hope and pray that in the list, we will get a very competent individual with experience and knowledge of security management at certain levels to fill in that gap and begin to give policy direction to the armed forces on how to tackle both existing and emerging challenges in the country.
Well, Mr. Agboefo,
I believe that...
okay.
Well,
go ahead, Mark.
Ayo, let's go on now. All right, thank you, Ayo. So let me quickly take this to Azubike, because, you know, Majid just mentioned something very important about the security emergency that was declared. As a security, you know, personnel yourself, you know, what would you have been hoping to see in the wake of that declaration by the president?
So, I mean, I agree that the security emergency declaration by the president is a welcome development. I think it's a step in the right direction. It could have been done much earlier, but now that it has been done, I wasn't surprised to see a resignation from the Minister of Defense. I do not want to go into the nitty-gritty of whether or not he resigned because of incompetence or whatever may be out there. Bottom line is that the Minister of Defense and any other minister serves at the pleasure of the president. And so while I wish him the best with his health, I think it is a welcome development. It's an opportunity for the president and the Federal Executive Council to pick on someone who actually has the competence, especially from a military and intelligence point of view, to run the Ministry of Defense, because the Ministry of Defense is like the focal point of intelligence in any country or in any nation. So his resignation is a very welcome development. Now, what we expect to see, just like Majid has said, is we need to see the strategic and tactical steps that they are taking right now. Personally, I believe that this resignation is one of them. I also think that we need to have a rejig of the entire security apparatus that we have in Nigeria, because the truth is our security apparatus is collapsed. It's a total collapse of our security structure in Nigeria, what we are experiencing currently. It takes me back to what we were talking about earlier on in terms of the economics of criminality, banditry, terrorism, or what have you. We cannot remove the fact that, you know, once we have social economic challenges in any country, what you see is what we're seeing in Nigeria today. I always like us to be very, very cautious when we try to make the challenges we're having look as binary as we're looking at it now. Yes, I agree. We do have fundamental religious issues in the northern part of Nigeria. Like I said, that has always been there. But the issues we have in Nigeria is multifaceted, depending on the region that you're looking at it. So if we focus on one aspect, we're basically going to be solving the headache when what we actually have is malaria. So what I expect with this current rejigging of our security apparatus and the declaration of a security emergency in some parts of Nigeria is that the federal government will come together, put together a team to work out the actual the strategies that are necessary to face the challenges that we have in the different parts. We know that in the Northwest, we have an issue of banditry. In the Northeast, we have issue of Islamic fundamentalism and Boko Haram and terrorism. In the Middle Belt, we have, you know, cattle rearers, cattle rustlers, and Fulani cattle rearers, you know, attacking the locals there. Some have branded it a Christian genocide, and some have said it's not a Christian genocide. In the Southeast, we have unknown gunmen, we have ESN, and all those other challenges that we have there. So we have to definitely take a global look at our problems, at our security problems, and work out the strategies that we need, both kinetic and human intelligence analysis and human intelligence extractions to be able to solve the problems that we have. If we take it as one problem, then we're just basically going to be solving the symptoms, or rather, we're just going to be treating the symptoms without curing the causative effects of our total security collapse in this country.
I think it's a fine place to leave it. I know that the conversation never ends. Security is usually always on the front burner, and the way developments come, they come almost on a daily basis. Before the day ends, you know, you already have another matter to look at with regards to security. But what we really want to see at the end of the day is progress and security for the people of Nigeria. We have to thank you both, gentlemen, for coming on Sunrise Daily today. Majid Dahiru is a newspaper columnist and technical member of the Luke Sterra Leadership Foundation. And Azubike Agboifo is a security analyst. Thank you so much for coming on Sunrise Daily, gentlemen.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We'll take a break.
Thank you, Mokbe.
Thank you.